what the left really thinks and wants. The anger at Trump is really anger against you. Guns good, and it's becoming easier to carry them. Those stories all next on The Michael Newman Show. Yeah, I changed the intro up a little bit because I wanted to, because it's my show and I can do what I want. Yay! Hey, everybody. It is Michael Newman, and the podcast is here for you. Go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. You can contact me, do all that cool stuff, see what I can do for you and your business. Twitter, Newmaniac1. That's my Twitter. I almost said your Twitter handle. I hope it's not. I am the real Newman over here. And, of course, please support the show. Go to my Patreon page. Just click the support icon. You can go there and support me for as little as $1 a month. Now, we're going to start the show off in a little bit different way. Usually we get right into politics, and I guess it is politics, but it's not like newsy politics. This is something a bit more important. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm alone on an island, and I'm the only one that sees it. I'm the only one that gets it. Especially amongst the rights and pundits on the right. There's a lot of people on the right that I like, right? I mean, they say good things, and they seem to be down. They seem to be people that know what they're talking about. But unfortunately, I don't think they really get it. Even some guys, Ben Shapiro being one, that understands that you have to argue. You can't argue with facts on the left, right? You can't argue with a leftist with facts. That doesn't work. You have to argue on a moral basis, right? Because they believe themselves to be right. They believe themselves to be righteous. So you have to argue on that basis. And it's good that he realizes that. He's absolutely right. I've been saying that for a long time. But even he has a problem with going far enough, right? He still wants to, well, it's improper. And we have to speak in the right way, and we have to be nice. No, we don't. We can't be nice, as a matter of fact. How do you win a war? Okay, it's that simple. How do you win a war? You fight with more force than the other guy. That's how you win. It's not killing the other guy. It's not, no. That has nothing to do with it. You fight with more force than is being brought against you. How do you win a street fight? You fight with more force than the force that's being brought against you. That's how it works. Every time. And in every way. You don't win unless you were more and better than. Okay? And more and better than in the same terms, you see. We'll have a problem winning the war on terror because we're not terrible enough. It's that simple. Terrorists are willing to go farther than we are. As a matter of fact, we haven't even fought the war on terror. What? We look at all these wars and troops. No. We've been fighting a war. We've been blowing things up. Have we done any terror of our own? Terrorism is not about the atrocities that they cause. Terrorism is not about the evil deeds and crazy people. It's not what it's about. Terrorism works because it's an emotional war. You do things to create an emotion. Okay? We have not done anything to instill fear in that population. Hence, we have never fought the war on terrorism. Period. It's just the way it works. And we are not going to beat the left until we, A, understand who they are, and B, recognize that we have to fight with the same fervor that they do. Little story for you. This will give you an idea of who they are. This is key. You've got to know who they are and what they believe. Professor of Health, Law, and Ethics pens a piece in The Guardian arguing that Big Brother, not the parents, should have the final say and, in fact, ownership of a child's life. This is in regards to the 11-month-old UK baby, Charlie Gard, A lot of people of you out there have heard of this story. Heartbreaking story. A boy's parents, Chris and Connie, were barred from pursuing an experimental but potentially life-saving treatment in the United States on their own dime, by the way. They had raised the money. They had it in hand. By European bureaucrats who said it was in Charlie's best interest to die in their hospital on their terms. Okay? They had the money. They had this little baby that they want to save. It's their child. And they had the money. They raised the money. A lot of people, I think it was in the millions of dollars that they raised. And all they wanted to do was take the kid out of the hospital in Great Britain, fly to the United States where they had a doctor waiting to carry out this medical procedure. Would it work? We don't know. It's experimental. But it was a last-ditch effort to save a person's life. Everything was let in line. Everything was ready to go. The doctor was ready. The money was ready. They could have done it. Lickety-split. Done. And tried to save this kid's life. But no, the European bureaucrats, the European Court of Human Rights, stepped in and said, no, you cannot save your child. You cannot try. You must let the child die. Made a lot of people angry. A lot of people in the United States. A lot of people in Great Britain very unhappy about the whole thing. Except for Ian Kennedy, this professor of health law and ethics at the University College of London. He said, infant Charlie Gard does not belong to his parents. He belongs to Big Brother, and he should be sentenced to death. The first is the most fundamental. As a society, we must choose how to decide such heartbreaking cases. Despite Charlie Gard's tragic story, we must respect the process of our courts because the state is more important than a person. These are the steps. The first is to recognize that children do not belong to their parents, he writes. They don't belong to your parents. In other words, caring, fighting parents like Chris and Connie do not have a final say over the child's life. The government knows better. It is statism to the very max. It is the complete lack of individuality, the complete lack of individual sovereignty, and the complete disregard for humans as a species. You are nothing. Only the government. Only those with power. And you know, it probably wouldn't be good for the idea of socialism and socialized medicine when socialized medicine can't and won't take care of a child. So the parents get the money and go to some place that can, and that is the United States, the one place in the world, you know, the only industrialized country in the world that doesn't have socialized medicine. That was the only place they could save their child. And that wouldn't really work very politically with them, would it? It'd be bad. It would look bad for their way of doing things. And it might harm their control and their amount of power. You and your life do not matter. Okay? You and your life do not matter. And when I say this to Bernie Sanders supporters. Okay, I want you to realize when push comes to shove, you do not matter. Whatever the government, however it affects you, does not matter. They don't do things for you. They're not there to help you. You are nobody. You do not matter. And Bernie Sanders, just as quick as anybody else, will bash your head in with a bat if you get in the way of their power. That is the truth. That is who we're fighting. And just understand, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. Why should they? They're winning worldwide. And people are just giving over their sovereignty to the government. And why? It's simple. Super simple. I said this 5 years ago when I started my radio show, and I'll say it today. It's because Personal responsibility is the scariest thing on the face of this planet. We do almost everything we possibly can to obfuscate that responsibility, including giving our lives over to the government. And people actually find comfort in tyranny because they have someone else to blame for their plight. And righteously, because the tyranny is a horrible thing. But it's okay because they get to blame somebody for it. They get to have a big bad, and it's not their fault. Not their fault for how their life turned out. And in the process, everyone else that might want to be a sovereign person, anyone else that might actually want to matter simply as a human being, well, you're out of luck. Because the people who don't want to be responsible for themselves far outnumber you. And it's a democracy, don't you know? That's who we're fighting, my friends. And the leftists, and more importantly, the elitists who really, really believe themselves to be superior and really, really want power over you. Those people are everywhere. Republicans and Democrats, they're everywhere. The National Security Agency and the Federal Bureau of Investigation violated specific civil liberties protections during the Obama administration by improperly searching and disseminating raw intelligence on Americans or failing to promptly delete unauthorized intercepts, according to newly declassified memos that provide some of the richest detail to date on the spy agency's ability to obey its own rules. This is a story by John Solomon in The Hill, and there was a new memo, some declassified stuff that came out. It really shows what the NSA has been doing. And they also throw the FBI in here. I'm not really, well, here's the thing. The FBI should have none of this information. I'm sorry, they shouldn't. Well, but it's domestic terrorism. Really? And of course, it happened under the Obama administration, and they sort of swept it underneath the rug. But this, of course, all started under the Bush administration because the Bush administration used the opportunity of 9/11 to take away the Fourth Amendment from the American people so that they could have even more control over you. It was the beginning and the building of political prisons, and that it conditioned people to get used to that sort of tyranny using the TSA. That's what happened. The TSA doesn't protect you, okay? That's the argument. Well, if you're going to keep us safe, I mean, we got to give. They don't keep you safe. 95% of the time, the weapons get on the plane. 95% of the time. 95% of the time. Out of 100 planes, let's say the terrorists decided they wanted to kill some Americans, so they sent out 100 terrorists. 100 different flights from 100 different places. 95 of those planes are going to flatten themselves right in the ground. Does that sound safe? Does that sound like the TSA is doing their job? No, but they certainly will probe your butthole. Yes, they will. Especially, they really like doing it when you're a child or an elderly person with a colostomy bag. Oh, man. Granny with the colostomy? What's in that bag? No more than, 2 ounces? Or 6 ounces, that's what it is. Oh, it looks like you got too much fecal matter here. Let me spray it on the rest of the line. That is your government taking care of you. The Hill did an interview with Nima Giuliani. She's from the ACLU, and she had some, look, I hate it when I agree with people like anyone from the ACLU, but pretty much what she said, okay, looking at this memo and her career is the same things I've been saying for the past 5 years. Okay, I didn't need a memo to tell me what was going on. I knew what was going on because I understand the motivations of government. In the interview, she was asked, what should Americans be most concerned about?
You know, I think time and time again, the NSA and the government has said, look, we follow the law. And what the documents show is that's just not true. We're seeing violation after violation of the terms of court orders and the terms of the surveillance laws that they're expected to follow. There are examples, for example, where they disseminated information about Americans and intelligence reports in a way that was improper. There are examples about cases where they kept communications that should have been purged. There are examples about cases where they searched for information about Americans in a way that was unlawful. And all of that, I think, points to what we're now seeing is a history of the NSA not being able to police itself.
And if we can't trust those that are in charge of enforcing the laws, who the hell can we trust? How do we keep secret agencies under control? Who's going to do it? It's not the FISA court. They just go along with everything. I mean, are we going to create a separate police organization that just polices the police? And then who's going to police them? That's the problem. That's the problem with giving undue power to an agency. They will use that power for their own purposes, whatever those purposes might be. And understand this. She's got 2 more clips here. Understand this. It seems as if the FBI, the NSA, whomever it is using information that they're gleaning illegally to go after other types of criminals. Most people would be, you're fine with that. My point is they're gathering so much information, and they have so much information that they're keeping. I don't care so much about the criminals they're going after, while that is bad. I care about the things we don't know that they are doing. How much of this information is being used for political purposes? To dig up dirt on somebody? To maintain power for a party? How much of this information is being used for a completely non-governmental purpose? Non-public purpose. It's being used for personal gain. The answer is we'll never know because it's secret. And they keep it that way. It's almost impossible to get information from these people. The only people that are privy to it have national security clearance, and I guarantee you, if it's somebody with national security clearance, they're in bed deep with the government. And they're not going to do anything to stop it. The Republicans won't. The Democrats won't. We saw that. All this spying expanded under President Obama. So you can't trust them. Who can you trust? Can you trust Bernie Sanders? No. This is the power of the Bernie Sanders secret police we're talking about here. So he's not going to get rid of it. He doesn't care. He wants the power over you. So it's not what we can prove that they're doing. It's what we have reservations that they're doing that we can't prove. That's even more nefarious in this situation. The NSA keeps telling us this data that they've collected is and not destroyed. They've collected it sort of illegally, and they've done it through destruction waivers. Tell us about what these destruction waivers are.
Destruction waivers are sort of exactly what they must sound like, right? The NSA has a responsibility, the government has a responsibility to purge certain communications, but the procedures provide exceptions where they can get a waiver for that. And now we're seeing that they actually use these waivers and seemingly use these waivers potentially to retain communications that are collected in cases where they're not supposed to be collecting them, when an individual is on U.S. soil, for example. I think that what is potentially even more concerning coming out of these documents is that there were violations even of the terms of those waivers, seemingly. And we still don't even have a sense of how often are they using these waivers, in what circumstances. All of this may, I think raises questions about whether the procedures that the agencies have put forward are really being followed in all cases.
No, they're not. That's the answer. I mean, she has to say it like an attorney. Well, I wonder if they're being... No, they're not. The procedures that they're put in place or put in place by Congress, whatever it was, were there to appease the people. But this is a secret agency that does secret things, and they keep a lot of things secret, and you don't get to know about it. And the government is not going to go in and take away their only ace in the hole. That is not what's going on. Is this about fighting terrorism?
I think there's sort of two misconceptions that get pushed in the terror debate. One is that these authorities are actually about terrorists, and the reality is they're not. If you look at the intelligence court's own transcripts, they acknowledge that most targets of Section 702, the program discussed in these documents, most targets are not suspected terrorists. Individuals having a conversation about foreign affairs, that could be grounds for the NSA to collect their information. So we're talking about massive programs that in many senses have nothing to do with terrorism and nothing to do with national security threats. I think putting that aside, the other thing that often gets lost in the debate is we have the Fourth Amendment for a reason. And the reason is that's supposed to make sure that the government does not target people without cause and without following the appropriate procedures, whether they're suspected of a petty theft or whether they're suspected of a serious crime. Right. And I think what we're seeing is the government trying to justify conduct that doesn't comply with the Fourth Amendment by pointing to, potentially scary consequences. But that's not the way the Fourth Amendment was written. And when we even kind of go a level deeper, we're seeing cases where the government is justifying conduct, saying, hey, I need it to protect against terrorism, but really that information is being used for things that have nothing to do with terrorism.
There's a couple of scary things here. Number one, it's the realization that we really don't have any constitutional rights. The Constitution is just a piece of paper. It gets interpreted by a Supreme Court, and if the Supreme Court says that the government doesn't need to follow the Fourth Amendment or the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or whatever amendment they care is at question, then you don't get that right. It just is taken away from you because the people that are there to enforce the Constitution have decided not to. So understand that your rights are at the whim of people in dresses. Oh, they're robes. No, they're dresses. There you go. Black dresses. They're slimming. So it was a good color choice. Sorry, I'm just trying to lighten things up a little bit because it is just such a very scary thing. I don't know. Let's move on because you have to understand that not only does the government come after you and keep you under tabs and what have you, not only is that the case, but those within power and power positions are virtually immune from any scrutiny whatsoever. All you have to do is look at the Clintons and you can see the immense amount of corruption that has been within that family ever since they, number one, entered the White House. Or actually, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I've heard some scary stories from back in the day when old Billy Bob was governor of Arkansas. I'm in Kansas. We have Arkansas City, but we say Arkansas City. And then Arkansas is a state, Arkansas something. I don't know. I'm just trying to be equal opportunity for everybody. And House IT aid worker for Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, the former Democratic National Committee chairwoman, was arrested on Tuesday on bank fraud charges while trying to leave the country. Fox News reported that he was arrested at Dulles International Airport. He was an IT staffer who worked for many House Democrats and is currently employed by Wasserman Schultz. He was allegedly at the center of a scheme that involved double charging the House for IT equipment. Not this House, but the House of Representatives, and may also have exposed House information online. Now, his family reportedly worked for House Democrats for years. He declared bankruptcy in 2012, but has made millions of dollars on the House payroll over the last decade or so, working for various members, according to a Politico report in March. Now, here's the thing. This person is currently under the employ of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. In March, a group of House Democrats fired the guy and another staffer for their alleged involvement in a scheme and the looming criminal investigation. There was a criminal investigation going on as well. However, Fox News reports that Wasserman Schultz still had this guy on her staff, on the payroll, despite him being barred from accessing the House's computer system since February. Why was he on the staff? Who's paying for what? What is this guy doing? And we arrest him for bank fraud charge. Well, that's fine. But I want to know why Debbie Wasserman Schultz had this guy, this criminal, on her staff, even after he was barred from accessing computer systems. Was he still accessing computer systems? Did he have his little paws on it? Maybe we'll find out in the investigation. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be some sort of congressional privilege. I don't know. And neither will you ever, because that's the way government works. And even when people, just normal, everyday, average Americans speak out, your government walks away from you, just walks away, will not give you the time of day. You know what? That should be a criminal act. If you're out on the street shaking hands and somebody has a problem with you and is asking you questions, a constituent is asking you questions, if you're a politician, you shouldn't be able to walk away. Maybe not. Maybe we could get some, tougher skinned people out there. Maybe we could get some better politicians out there if they had to stare you in the face and face you and your problems. On Thursday of last week, New York City Mayor de Blasio, I call him de Blasto, was holding a press conference in Queens regarding a $16 million sidewalk recovery project, and then he didn't quite expect what happens next. The story says elderly woman. She doesn't look all that elderly to me. I mean, mid-60s maybe. But she was certainly a firebrand.
I'd like to know why you were in Germany when one of your police officers were assassinated. Why did you protest against our country in Germany? That's the real question. That's the real question. The question is not about trees. Okay, I've lived in Queens for 65 years. I want to know why you let your police officers down and our country down by going to Germany and protesting against our country. I want to know why you're doing that. Okay? I don't care about the trees. We'll work it out. Find $18 million to put in your cops' pockets. Okay? And pay your police officers. And stop spending it on money to go protest against our country.
Yeah, there you go. I don't care about the trees. We'll work it out. Oh, man. She's great. I like her a lot. And by the way, that's the best answer to the global warming psychos out there is, okay, you know what? Even if we accept your premise that the world's going to catch fire, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. The adults in the room who are skeptical will take care of it, not you Looney Tunes out there that are basing your entire scientific base on religion. Okay. So in that instance, it wasn't 2 seconds into that video that Mayor de Blasio just walked away, just avoided the conversation, walked away, didn't want to talk to this lady, didn't want to look at this lady, didn't want to think about this lady, just wanted to ignore her very existence. And that was nice. That was nice in comparison to a Republican on the Senate floor. There's a reason why I don't like John McCain. And you know what? The other day when I heard that he had brain cancer, I made a joke on the podcast. I did about that. And before I published it, I decided, that's kind of a bad taste. The guy's got potentially terminal brain cancer. I don't want to be a jerk. I should have done the joke, is what I'm saying. I should have done it. It wouldn't be funny now, or else I'd tell you what it was. It's one of those in the moment type situations. I should have done it. He is the most worthless, America hating. He hates you. John McCain does. You. Because you dare to have an opinion in this country. Senator John McCain returned to the Senate floor on Tuesday after brain surgery that revealed he had cancer and called for bipartisanship while slamming the bombastic loudmouths who seek to damage a united agenda. By the way, Sarah Taylor from The Blaze wrote this, and she's grabbing the wrong parts out of what this guy said. Okay? This is the clip. Got it from YouTube. We'll have the links. Just go to my website, michaelnewmanproductions.com, and you'll have all the links to these stories. This is John McCain.
I hope we can again rely on humility, on our need to cooperate, on our dependence on each other, to learn how to trust each other again, and by so doing better, serve the people who elected us. Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio and television and the internet. To hell with them.
Clap, 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 clap. Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths. No, that's not the part that is scary. It's not. It's the part where they say, to hell with them. Let me explain something to you. People like me, people like Rush Limbaugh, people on TV and on the internet, Ben Shapiro on the internet, people like Stefan Molyneux on the internet, those people are far more in touch with the Americans that put you in office than you are. As a matter of fact, your words to your constituency, and maybe it's because he thinks everything's coming to an end and he's being more honest, but he's literally telling the people that put him in office, I hate you, you can go straight to hell. That's John McCain. And that's the reason I've never liked the man, because I know who he is. He's a leftist who wants control over you. He's an elitist who wants control over you because he believes himself to be superior. He's better than you. Why won't you understand that? He should be in control, right? That's certainly what John McCain believes. Then he goes on and has this to say.
Let's return to regular order. We've been spinning our wheels on too many important issues because we keep trying to find a way to win without help from across the aisle. That's an approach that's been employed by both sides, mandating legislation from the top down without any support from the other side, with all the parliamentary maneuvers that requires. We're getting nothing done, my friends. We're getting nothing done.
And you're not planning on doing anything that the American people told you to do. Understand that the reason you're not getting anything done is there happens to be a couple of people in the Senate that recognize that these bills that you're putting out there are not what the American people were promised for the last 7 years during election periods. This bill that McCain came out, or that McConnell came out with, and this bill that came out of the House through the Ryan House, they were Obamacare light. That's not what we want. They're not going to fix the problem, they only compound it. And what they do is allow you to contain and keep control over 1/6 of the economy. And you still get those death panels, don't you? Yeah, you get the choice. You get the ability to decide who lives and who dies. And by the way, even if we were to employ these bills, it is not going to fix the healthcare system. People will become more and more disenfranchised with private insurance. And then in 10 years' time, they'll be begging even more than they are now for national health care, which will just give all 100% control over to you. And then you then get to kill little baby Charlie Gard. You get to kill him. Maybe you'll have the hammer treatment. Maybe, you know what, this kid, oh man, we're not going to pay for any more treatment for this kid because we're the government and we say it's time to let him go. So why don't you bring him in here, and the quickest way to end his life will be to bash his skull with a hammer. I'm John McCain, and I'll be the one that does it because I'm the best guy on the planet. I get to kill babies with hammers. That's who these people are, okay? Understand, that's who these people are. And I saved the most scary, frightening, and disgusting clip for last.
The success of the Senate is important to the continued success of America. This country, this big, boisterous, brawling, intemperate, restless, striving, daring, beautiful, bountiful, brave, good, and magnificent country needs us to help it thrive.
Oh, do we? That says all you need to know about John McCain. This whole thing that I tell you about him feeling superior and he knows that he's better than you. This big, beautiful country from sea to shining sea, they couldn't get along without me. They couldn't get along without this body. These people couldn't exist without government. It is our job to provide for them. Well, to hell with you, John McCain. The biggest problem for your average, everyday individual is government. That's it. The government is the reason why people are scared to defend themselves. The government is the reason why people are afraid to speak up. The government is the reason why people go bankrupt. The government is the reason why business is stifled in this country. Why growth is slowed to a mere pittance of what it used to be. You are the problem. And the fact that we've told you this for the past 7 years, we pointed at Obama when we were saying it, because of Obamacare. But essentially we were saying, get the hell out of my doctor's office. for the past 7 years. And finally, we got our guys elected. And what have our guys done? They said, screw you, America. We like the control, we like the power, and we the hell ain't giving it up. So, thank you, John McCain. And, oh, by the way, House Republicans are poised to fund $1.6 billion for President Donald Trump's border wall, but they just don't want people to know it. The House Rules Committee is expected to attach funding for the wall that Trump has proposed building along the Mexican border in the minibus bill, which is a downsized spending package for the Pentagon, the Energy Department, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the legislative branch, but not the DHS, the cabinet agency responsible for the wall. If an amendment to fund the wall is adopted by the Rules Committee, which, by the way, it won't, just saying it's not going to happen. This line item can circumvent a floor vote, sparing GOP immigration moderates and fiscal hawks from being pressed to approve a project that their constituents might view as xenophobic, misguided, and wasteful, sparing GOP leadership from possible defeat. This is this a Hill story again? No, it's a Politico story. Of course, it's a Politico story. Politico is where Republicans go to keep their finger on the pulse of what people really think. And they don't recognize that not funding the wall and not putting it up is going to ensure that they never get reelected. Okay? This election was a lot about Obamacare. It was even more about immigration and the wall. They don't want to do it. And they're saying, oh, look at these Republicans. They could sneak it in there. Ain't going to happen, number one. And the entire story was built. The entire story here was designed to tell Republicans, your people aren't going to like you if you build this wall, so you're going to have to do something funky to sweep it in there without anybody knowing about it, because if the people knew that you were funding this wall, you'd never get reelected. It's a propaganda piece. But the Republicans like it. They don't want to fund the wall. They don't want to do anything that's going to get between them and their power. And part of stealing power from you is diluting it by diluting the economy, lowering wages, increasing the amount that we pay out in welfare programs, having people dependent on the government. The more people dependent on the government, the more people will vote for them that provide that stipend. That's how it works. Tucker Carlson. Get a little bit on the president here. Tucker Carlson decried the rhetorical attacks by President Trump on Attorney General Jeff Sessions, saying that it was nuts for him to undermine the only ally who completely believed in Trumpism from the beginning. He made the comment on his Fox News show. In the clip, he had a piece from Donald Trump.
I am disappointed in the Attorney General. He should not have recused himself almost immediately after he took office. And if he was going to recuse himself, he should have told me prior to taking office, and I would have quite simply picked somebody else. So I think that's a bad thing, not for the president, but for the presidency. I think it's unfair to the presidency.
It is unfair to the presidency, and it was a purely political decision on Sessions' part. Look, by Sessions recusing himself, he gave validity to a conspiracy theory, and he did it so that he could stay above the fray politically, because he's been a senator for a long time, and that's how he thinks, right? So, yeah, it was a bad idea. You don't recuse yourself. You're no longer a senator, Mr. Sessions. You're there to enforce the law, and you're there to do investigations, right? You are there to do prosecutions. It should be you looking into the Russia thing and then dismissing it 2 months ago, saying there's nothing here. There will be no charges. This ends today. Moving on to Hillary Clinton. That's what you should have done. But you didn't do that. Now, I will give Sessions a little bit of leeway here, because directly after Trump was elected, he said, we're not going to go after Hillary. So I don't know why he's bringing up the idea of going after Hillary now in relations to Sessions. Did Sessions have orders? I don't know who did what to where, Maybe Trump just assumed that the attorney general was going to take it upon themselves to root out the wrongdoing at the Clinton Family Crime Foundation. And Trump could play the good guy and say, I'm not going to go after him, but, the Sessions guy, he's a real stickler. Man, he's a good dude. And he's the one that's doing it. It's not me. It's not me. Maybe that's what he was thinking. But he's right. And I said this from day one. Lock her up. Those chants around the country, that chant was not just happening at your rallies, Mr. Trump. That chant was happening in the homes of everybody that was watching it on YouTube as well. Draining the swamp means locking up Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and the entire group that's involved with them, the entire extended family of crime that they have swirling around them. So yes, Mr. Sessions, your job is to enforce the law. You should have been enforcing the law. And by the way, immigration isn't the only thing that you should be working on. This is what Tucker Carlson said.
Unfair to the presidency. Well, the Russia investigation is certainly that. It's unfair to the country, too. The whole thing is stupid and disingenuous, as we pointed out many times, and it helps nobody but the partisans who are pushing it. So it's easy to understand the frustration the president feels. But publicly attacking Jeff Sessions for all of that, that is nuts. Senior White House staff thinks so, too. They have asked the president to stop, so far without success. Meanwhile, Sessions hasn't said a word. His only public comment has been a press release describing his plans to crack down on sanctuary cities. That's his job. That's the point here. Jeff Sessions is doing what he was hired to do, as he has done since day one.
Actually, that is the president's job. He's doing what he's told to do, but not fully. See, Jeff Sessions is just a tool that is there. And if the president says go take out sanctuary cities and enforce immigration law, you better be doing it or else you're out. So he's doing that. But what about the rest of his job? I actually haven't heard any stories about Jeff Sessions doing anything of worth. I've heard a lot of immigration stories, but that has to do with Homeland Security and those guys actually starting to enforce laws. That's what I've been hearing about. Nothing about Jeff Sessions. Who's he investigating? Don't tell me there's nothing to investigate. So don't tell me Jeff Sessions is doing his job. He's a political hack, just like the rest of them. You never should have put a senator in a place of authority in that way, because he can no longer be political. As the attorney general, he's not supposed to be political. He's simply supposed to enforce the law, and it doesn't seem like he's capable of doing that. That's what I'm saying. Oh, you're going after Jeff Sessions? Sure the hell I am. There is no one in Washington that deserves any respect whatsoever. If they did, we'd be in a much better position as a country. I don't trust them, and I don't respect them, because trust and respect are both things that are earned, and they have not done that yet. Is Trump the most hated man in America? I don't think so. It's probably going to end up being me. That'd be nice. I'd be fine with that. I don't really care. He did another one of his rallies the other day, and he had some choice words for a Soviet flag flying protester. The guy had a Soviet flag out there. It's probably related to Bernie Sanders. I don't know.
If you don't point, nobody's even going to know he's here. Weak voice. Weak voice. Don't worry.
Yeah, and he had somebody reached up and snatched the Soviet flag and ran away. Good. And then this one really angered the left for whatever reason. The president decides to go to the Jamboree with the Boy Scouts, and a little chant broke out. And then I thought, look, this is the president at his very, very best. And by the way, it's his most relatable, too. This would be the sort of thing that I would say if I were president and I was standing up there on the dais. This is great.
By the way, just a question. Did President Obama ever come to a jamboree?
Oh, yeah. Of course, he didn't go to the Jamboree. He hates the Boy Scouts and he hates America. Isn't that great? We love Trump. Hey, did President Obama ever show up here? No! It was beautiful. It was great. There are some good things happening, specifically in the realm of guns. But before we get to that,
and then Sneaky Snake goes dancing, wiggling and a hissing. Sneaky Snake goes dancing, giggling and a kissing.
this scares the hell out of me. Customs officers made a startling discovery earlier this year while inspecting a package on its way to Monterey Park apartments. 3 highly venomous king cobra snakes, each about 2 feet long, hidden in potato chip cans. What? Okay, hold on. Potato chip cans. The only potato chip that comes in a can is a Pringle, right? And just think, you're here with your, look, I want to have a little Pringle. I want the sour cream and chive, or the sour cream and onion, whatever it is. The most popular on the face of the planet. It's in the green deal. And you open it up and you're like, oh, this is going to be so good. This is my cheat day. Yeah, it's my diet cheat day. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to have 5. That's all I'm going to have. I can't stand more than 5. Just going to have 5. And you open it up and the thing's on your face. Oh, my God. I can't think of anything more frightening. In Pringle. What? Oh, my God. And why? Ooh, okay. On Tuesday, the intended recipient, Rodrigo Franco, 34, was arrested on federal smuggling charges after a months-long investigation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like some venomous cobras, please. Who wants all the... And the story goes on. They were smuggling a whole bunch of weird exotic animals and reptiles and things like that. And why? Okay, what about a cat? I mean, dogs are good. Why do you need a venomous cobra? Why? D.C. Appeals Court does the right thing. U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in D.C. on Tuesday put a hold on a Washington, D.C. attempt to keep residents from carrying concealed handguns for self-defense, a move that gun rights advocates are considering a win. In a 2-1 decision, a 3-judge panel issued an injunction against a good cause law, which requires residents to have a viable reason for obtaining a concealed carry pistol license. A lot of places there's, concealed carry, but what do you need a gun for? What? You're going to have to prove to us, the government, you have a viable reason, and then you're going to sit and wait, and then maybe we'll give it to you if we think your reason is good enough or we like you enough. And they got sued, and at least in this case, won. As a matter of fact, the law, there's an injunction against the law now. So we'll have to see how this pans out in the future. Now, the same case hit the other coast because California has the same thing. And it was upheld in the federal courts. And then the Supreme Court wouldn't take a look at it. They wouldn't take a look at it. So I'm wondering, maybe the Supreme Court was holding off, knowing that this case was coming through the pipe and they're setting it up for a big battle, or if they really agreed with California, I don't know. But you got to think, this has to eventually hit the Supreme Court, because if you've got 2 federal courts disagreeing, saying that that's not applicable under the Second Amendment, then, and then one saying it is, eventually that would be 2 different constitutions and 2 different sets of rules for different parts of the country. And that's simply not going to work out legally. And by the way, people always wondered, we need more gun laws. We need to watch out for these people getting guns, and we need to watch out for the crazy people getting guns. You know what? I'm far less worried about the dude that wants to go buy a firearm, even if he is a felon, than I am the dude that goes, hey, got any live cobras? I want a live cobra. Actually, 3, please. Can I have 3 live cobras? Yeah. That guy scares the crap out of me. Actually, that'd be kind of a neat firearm, wouldn't it? Like a compressed air live Cobra cannon. Ooh. Wait a second. I wonder if I can get some live cobras. Let's get this guy on the blower. Well, one last story here. We're going super, super long. We're probably going to be into an hour today. Antonia Okafor, is that her name? Very, very pretty, by the way. She's like, whoa. Wanted a gun, and she wrote a piece about it in the New York Times. A lot of people, an op-ed, a lot of people are unhappy about it, talking about her first-year graduate school at the University of Texas there in Dallas. And, you know, she would get out of class. She worked during the day, so she went to school at night. And she would get out of class about 10 o'clock and had to walk through this huge parking lot to get to the car. And, of course, she'd heard some stories about some sexual assaults and some things happening. And it's this giant cavernous place, and nobody's around. So she was worried, and rightly so. She's a little girl, and she said that she dreaded that time of day and was just praying that no one was lurking behind one of these dimly lit areas, and the only thing she had to protect her was a rape whistle, which would do absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, she got in the habit of having the whistle in one hand and having her phone with 911 pre-dialed in it and her finger on the button. But she realized that even if she could make that call when she was attacked, the cops would not be there in time to save her. So she decided to get a firearm and go through the whole thing. And then she had a firearm. She felt better about herself. And she wrote this piece, and there was a lot of pushback against it. And this is her response.
Kim Kardashian moms demand action, and the Democratic Party have an insatiable desire to keep women defenseless. Why? Because women don't know how to use guns and should instead just advocate for better health care. Sound insanely sexist to you? That's because it is. I'm Antonia Okafor, and this is #2A. Gun control advocate Shannon Watts, leader of Moms Demand Action and Bloomberg-funded Everytown, teamed up the other week and created #WearOrange, a campaign aimed at bringing attention to National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Even Kim Kardashian weighed in and penned an open letter stating her passionate plea for gun control. Yes, Kim Kardashian, the golden standard of role models for young women everywhere. Kim Kardashian, the same woman who was tied up, assaulted, and robbed at gunpoint in France. Moms Demand Action and the other blindly led celebrities were not advocating for anyone's empowerment, especially not women's. They're advocating to keep women defenseless. Over 200,000 women use a firearm to protect themselves against criminals every year. Criminals. You know, the ones that don't follow the law regardless of the law? People like Shannon Watts don't like that statistic, and so they paired the same sexist talking points, like this one. When a Democratic strategist on national TV told me why I shouldn't be advocating for a right to own a gun for self-defense, but should be advocating for better health care instead.
I think you have safe, stable, secure communities with all of the other things I listed out, making sure that women can afford to go to college so that they can be educated and they can build a career for themselves, making sure that women are paid fairly in the workplace. Those are the things that I think are equalizers.
Right. Of course, women should be advocating for better health care, access to education, and higher paying jobs. But what does that have to do with the fact that a criminal can attack me, a college-educated woman, and has killer, no pun intended, insurance, I might add? Law-abiding women need guns for self-defense. You know that thing that happens to prevent the scenario where great health insurance would be needed in the first place? Sorry, not sorry. As an empowered woman that uses my right to keep and bear arms as a means of my personal safety, I will not be wearing orange. Kim Kardashian and the anti-gun left female role models, this one's for you. You can either use your unfortunate circumstances to empower women and help prevent future cases of violence by advocating for laws that help them do so, or you can advocate for more gun control. Pick one, because you can't do both. I'm Antonia Okafor, and this is #2A.
Well, I think she's absolutely right. And it's not, I think she's absolutely right. That's not a good way to say it. She is absolutely right, because there's no college, education, or doctor or nurse on the planet that will step between you and a person that wants to kill you. All right, that is it for the Michael Newman Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry, we went too long today, but that's all right. Please go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. There you can get all the links for the stories we talked about today. You can contact me by sending me an email. You can also check out my social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. My Twitter handle is Numaniac1, and most importantly, support the show. You can support the show in two ways. Number one, click the support icon and go to my Patreon page, and you can support the show monetarily for as little as $1 a month. $5 would be great. You can do that, or please, or both, send out the links to this show. I'm trying to grow it. It seems like we've kind of reached a plateau with the number of people that are exposed to the show. I'd like to get this thing out here. Make it viral as much as possible. Even if you don't like it, just send it out to piss people off. That'll be fun, right? Yeah, it's like getting in a Twitter war with my face. All right. Have a great afternoon.
See ya.